So hi friends, how are you? I hope you are doing well. So in this video we will learn about the use context hook. So earlier we have already learned about the use context, use reducer, use set, use state. So we have already seen these hooks, and now we will learn about the use context hooks. So before we start to learning on the use context hook, we will start about the what is the props drilling. So props drilling means like there are multiple components in our application, like component 1, component 2, component 3, component 4, component 5, component 6 and component 7. So if I want to pass my data from component 1 to component 6, then I need to pass my data from component 1 to component 2, and component 2 pass my data from component 2 to component 4. Then component 4 can pass my data from component 4 to 6. And if I want to pass my data to component 7, so I need to pass my data from component 1 to component 2, and component 2 will pass my data to component 4. Then component 4 can pass my data to component 7. So it's like a very difficult to manage our states. So we need to manage our states globally. So that like any of the component, like component 7, component 5 and component 3, any of the component like component 4, component 2, and they can easily access the states. So it's manage the state globally. So any of the component can access their states. So like if I want to pass my data from component to 6, then we can directly pass my data from component 1 to component 6, component 1 to component 3, anything. We don't need to pass our data from component 1 to 2 and then to pass to 3 and 3 will pass to 4. So like it's like a very difficult to manage our states globally. So using the use context hook, we can manage our states globally. So we can remove the props drilling issue. Like this is a issue that is called the props drilling. So we don't need to pass our data in between components. So when we want to create this use context hook, then we need to create we are using this method, use context method, and then we can assign this into a user context or value context, any that you want to. Then you can export this user context to any of the component, then that can be access the value. So like before we are want to pass our data from component to any of the component, then we need to wrap our whole component into a provider. Like there are two components here, component 1 and component 2. So we need to wrap all the component inside the provider. So like I am passing the value hello. So this hello can be accessed inside the both component 1 and component 2. So this is the like a basic example. So now start with the real demo application. So I have already created an application here. So now start with the coding first. So I just create a file that is use context. So inside the use context, I create two states. First is the username, and second is the for password. So initially I set the value for the username is hello and password to hi. So now I use this. We need to import this create context from the React. So that we need first we need to import this create context here, and then we can use this create context and initialize the null, and then we can assign into a variable. So I just create a context here, and this context can be import from using the create context, and we can import this create context from the React. And now using the provider, this will provide a provider object. It will return an object, and that we can access the provider using this like a app dot. It will return an object, and we can access this object attribute using the dot attribute. So app context dot provider, and then we can pass the value here. So we can pass the any value. Just I am passing username and password. Initial value for username is hello, and password is hi. So like both component, like they are login component and dashboard component, both component are wrapped inside a component, so that both component can access these values hello and hi. So I'm just passing these value that can be accessed inside the login component and dashboard component. So now I'm just getting the value. So inside the login component, we need to first import this app context that we are creating the context here. So we need to import this user context from from this use context to login context, and then we can get the value, like I'm passing username and password from here, so that we can access these value inside the login component. So I'm just getting these value inside our login component and just displaying the value inside the login component. And same thing I'm doing with the dashboard component. So same thing, I'm just getting the value of username and password from this use context to our dashboard component, and then just displaying our value inside our dashboard component. So now, like so like I'm passing my value username and password from I use this use context file to login file and dashboard file, and I'm displaying the value inside the login and dashboard both component. So now we are able to see that inside the login component I am able to see that username is hello and password is hi, and inside the dashboard component I am able to see that username is hello and password hi. So inside the both component that are wrapped inside this provider are accessible these values. So the value we are passing from this provider, so these values can be accessed inside the both component, like those login component and dashboard component. And like this is the static value. We can pass the dynamic values as well. So I just create an input type here, control copy, and we can paste here. So I just created two input type here, and when I change this input type, like when I change this name, so I'm just setting the value, like when I change this input type name, so it will take the value from the input and set the name for the inside the username. And for the same for password, so it will take the value from the input and then set the password inside the password. Then I'm passing these values inside the both component. So now we can check this. So that now, like we have created two input type here, and like I'm just passing this input values from the input type, and then passing these value inside the component. Then we can access these value inside the both component, inside the login component as well as inside the dashboard component. And if I pass the value inside for the password, so we are able to get the value for the password inside the both component, like login component and dashboard component. So now we are able to access the these are the dynamic kind. So previously we are passing the value static, and now I am passing our value dynamic. So any, like if user press inside this input type, so the input value will taken, and that value will set inside the username, and then with this username we are passing from this file, like this parent component to our provider. So these, like these username and password can easily be accessed inside the both component, and then like we are displaying the value here. And if I want to, like this, if I want to I want to pass, like I want to pass this input type from the login component, and then when I change inside the login component, then I can, how can I say like my data inside the dashboard component. So I'm just copying from here, control S, then I just create a input type here, and I just create an input type here. So I just want that if I change here, so then the value that are inserted inside the login component, that can be shared inside the dashboard component. So how we can do that? So like this is a simple way. We are just passing the value here. So now we can pass as well as method from this file. So I am passing this method from this username, set username and set password. So previously we are just sending the values. Now we are passing our method as well. So like these method can be easily accessed inside the login component, and these methods are responsible for set the value inside the username and password, and these username and password can be easily accessed inside the dashboard component. So I just pass the these method from this context file to like both they are accessible inside the both, like login component and dashboard component. So inside the login component, I can fetch the, like I can use this username, and I can use username, and I can also use this set password from this file, like use context to login context. So now what happening, like I am just create this input type inside the login component, and inside the login component I am using this method set username and set password, and that these methods are passed from this provider to our both component, like inside the login component and dashboard component. and now we are calling this set password method and set user method from this login file, and they are changing value inside this username, and this username will already passing into our dashboard component. So we can access the dashboard value from this login component to our dashboard component. So now like a login component just passing data inside the login component, and we are able to get our data inside the password component. So what's are going on, like we can pass our data from this component, and we can pass the static values as well as we can pass some dynamic values. We can create an input type here, and we can on change we can set the value, and we can pass our data from this using this provider context provider, so that both components that are wrapped inside the provider, they can easily access the values that are passing from this provider. So that we are easily easily able to access the values, and we can as well as we can also pass these method from this file, from this using this app context provider. So I'm passing the username and set username and set password. Both method I am also passing from this user app context provider to our inside the login component, and inside the login component I'm just creating two input type here, and when I change this input type for first when I change this input type username, then I'm calling this set username method that we are passing from this provider. Then this method is called, and when we are call this method, then this method is responsible for to change the value inside the username. And this username we are already sending this username from this this component to our inside the provider. So then username and password that can be easily accessed inside the dashboard. So this is the basic example that how we can share our data between the components and how we can remove the prop dealing issue. So if we want to pass our data inside the multiple component, there are multiple component, and if I want to pass our data so directly to a component, then we can wrap our component inside the provider. So if we wrap our component inside the provider, so that we can easily if here we are wrapping our dashboard and login component here, so that the component easily can access these values here. So what we need to first we need to create a createContext, and we need to import this createContext from the React, and then we need so that we can create a context, and this createContext provided as an object. So using inside the object we are able to get the value provider. Inside the provider we need to pass a value, and inside the in the wrapped component, like inside the login and dashboard component, we need to use context here. So use context. So first we need to create a createContext, then we can use the useContext. So using the useContext we can get the values as well as we can get the method. So we can update our a content from this useContext hook, so that we can easily share our data. So this is the basic I try to do my best, and if you face any issue you can comment to my video. I will try to resolve your issue, and please like and subscribe my channel, and if you have any doubts, so also comment me, and if you want to learn any of the topic from the ReactJS, you can comment the topic name inside our comment. So I will try to make a video, and I will provide the source code as well. So this code is also I will when I upload this video, so I will in the description box I will also put the GitHub URL, so that you can check a pull out. You can take a pull from this GitHub and you can check at your end as well. So thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe my channel.